no disco.
This ain't no country club, neat.
This is RVA.
Welcome, everybody,
To another thrilling episode
of
O Lala in the Dungeon. Season 2.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you why. We have a new space at Liz's crib. We have had a few changes to the podcast recently. Sadly, Lee will no longer be joining us for the podcast, but we are so grateful for all of the work that he put in and time and money as our tech master. And now we are faced with the challenge of producing the show ourselves.
So please bear with us.
With the help of our Big Daddy Shumate.
That's right. My hubby. He's our new dungeon master.
And tech specialist.
We even have a dungeon dog now.
Oh yes, we have a demon in the dungeon. Hopefully he doesn't bark. Be quiet, you. Anyway, we shall never know Lee's actual name. Anyway, what we've been up to. So we are doing this episode before we go on vacation, so we didn't do that much in between episodes, but we did go to the Great American Ranch, which was at the Old Club Midway in Mechanicsville.
Oh my God, it was so much fun.
That was really fun. But I'm an idiot because I told you guys last time that I went to the old mechanics, or whatever, what is it called? Club Midway.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was actually the original American Ranch.
The
and I was
OG.
like, why the hell does it not look anything like Club Midway? My mind hurts trying to imagine what it looked like. But yeah, it was the one in Mechanicsville. That was the old Club Midway. But anyway, I liked this location the best out of the two. We saw Double Down play.
They were really good.
They were so good. We saw Led Zeppelin and ZZ Top and Blackberry Smoke covers. We drank Jack and Coke. I slow danced with a Native American man.
He was giving me Lou Diamond Phillips vibes.
He was really cool.
Like,
I liked him. I was flattered. And Matt rode the bull, our dungeon master.
Oh, and we made a really cool reel you guys might have seen. Dancing to a little Shania Twain.
We'll post it on our actual page if you haven't seen it.
I know
But
you're dying to see it.
and we also tried to line dance, but we didn't do very well.
I have no memory of that.
But anyway, let's introduce our guest. Today's guest. Oh, wait, Liz, do you have anything to say also from what we did? Because I don't know if you've done anything else.
Did I do anything else? I don't even know what day it is.
We did, we saw the Barbie movie.
Oh yeah, we did.
Again.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, we'll introduce our guest.
Yes.
Today's guest was the guest of another guest that we had on. Remember the Goth episode, guys? Well, today...
I do.
I do too. Today we are interviewing Karin's friend, Kevin, who was there during her episode. Kevin is a 50-year-old Richmond native.
And fellow Tucker Tiger. What?
He's had many life adventures, specifically 4 marriages. That's a lot. And several jobs. He wound up becoming a mental health professional and a single man, which he feels is where he belongs in life.
He wrote this, folks.
Well, I kind of reread it. He was led into his field by his own issues with panic. I can't stop laughing. Panic
You're not supposed to laugh at that part.
I know, right? Like, ha ha ha,
Sorry,
panic and depression.
I have a dark sense of humor. With panic and depression, as well as the mental health struggles of others in his life. He is very passionate about working with people who struggle with mental health, as well as cooking, grilling out, music, songwriting, baseball, and of course, craft beer. What
It's what's for
Richmonder
dinner.
wouldn't like craft beer? He is also the proud Papa Bear of his 16-year-old daughter. Today we will talk about divorce, and the craziness of working in the mental health field. Let us welcome Kevin.
Thank
The
you.
crowd goes wild.
Welcome again. Okay, so first off, are you from Richmond? If not, what brought you here?
Yeah, I was born in Richmond. I was born Hello. I was born at St. Mary's Hospital.
Oh my God, I was born at St. Mary's too.
Right, and we went to the same high school.
It's like
oh
we're
my
the same
God.
person.
Yeah.
Are we friends?
My beard's a little better than yours.
You canceled. So.
I didn't cancel. We're still friends.
It's all still above board, people.
So yeah, I've been pretty much in Richmond all of those 50 years. I mean, a couple summers living in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then some short trips to college. But other than that, I've been around here.
I thought you were going to say to jail.
No, not yet. I've never. Actually, we can talk about that. I've never been arrested ever.
Wow.
Nice.
Neither have I.
Kudos.
Okay.
Me either.
So let's get into the nitty gritty. How old were you when you first got married?
28.
You were my age. Whoa.
Yes, I was your age once. I remember it almost.
Well, I hope you had a wonderful time being married. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. I mean, there's highs and lows, and I mean, y'all are married, right? So you understand it can be a struggle at times.
True that.
And even more so if you're, dealing with mental health issues as well. And then, we'll probably get further in this later, but just that whole process of like growth and like understanding yourself and changes and like what you want in life and what you want out of a person and stuff. Like it's a heavy evolution, the process of recovery and stuff. So, unfortunately, it can cause a lot of damage, which also leads to those fun adventures.
Very true. Yeah. Okay, so how long did your first marriage last, and what broke you up, if you don't mind talking about it?
We were married for 4.5 years, and, obviously you could go with irreconcilable differences. That's what it says on the paperwork.
I was going to say, is that what it says?
But, actually, it was during that marriage when so we got married when I was 28. She was 28 as well. And that's when I had my first panic attack. Not when I was 28, but when I was 30 years old. So it's, it's been like 20 years since that happened. So like that was my first experience of like realizing that I had a mental illness. And obviously that's going to put a strain on a relationship. So there was, I don't know how much like you'll know about panic disorder, but
I've had panic attacks.
Right. So it sucks. It's painful, it's scary, all that stuff. And I was having them like really frequently that's in turn caused me to be depressed, right? And in her defense, she was very supportive. She was there all the time and stuff. But it was hard. And then like, I was also at that point, once that happened, like starting to venture into the world of like having to take psychotropic medication and doing therapy and stuff. And, just going through therapy, you learn a lot about yourself. A lot of stuff changes and stuff.
I loved therapy, PSA.
Oh, I mean, I still do. Like, I'm back in it. I've had some struggles recently. We can talk about it later, but, so I think, a lot of it was, she has like a drinking problem too, that, and I drink a lot back then too, like a self-medication more than anything else.
Also,
I still drink a lot because it's delicious, but
right.
And it's so hard because it's like 28, like where I'm at, like you feel like you're starting to not be so young anymore, like back in the college days, but like you're still like partying. I guess that never ends though.
I was going to say, I still feel like almost like, yes, a lot of things change, but in a way you're always like at your core, almost like this, it's like your
soul
voice doesn't change that much, like your inner monologue. I don't know. Because I'm always like, when will I actually feel like I'm doing it like an adult? Like what? Like, you know what I mean?
That's a weird thing. It's just like,
and nobody has said that they think who have asked that.
And I don't think
like,
I don't think it happens. Like what I think is like, you just become more comfortable with your thoughts and like handle your responses better. Because that's a big issue. Like with any mental illness, is like learning the ability to regulate your emotions, because obviously, I mean, everybody feels strong emotions, but like, you know, when you're mentally ill, they're stronger and like harder to control. And like, it seems like, you know, your frontal lobe, what's controlling rational thought, is not as active as it should be. And it's like almost a process of having to learn, you know, how to manage that, you know? So that's the biggest difference. And the thing is, like, I had my first panic attack at 30, but like in the process of therapy, what I realized is that wasn't like the start of my illness, that like I could go back, you know, I was younger than that, in my adolescence and my childhood, and see where like my line of thinking was warped, you know, like I was always an anxious thinker, like very worried about time and stuff. I had some OCD tendencies, a lot of counting stuff, and then like viciously horrible self-esteem issues that like, and depression because of that, you know? So like I can go back, and you know, Karin's known me for a hell of a long time. I mean, since I was, you know, an adolescence. But like there was this whole shift in me at that time that had to do with the lack of self-esteem and like what I was doing in school, and like where I found positive reinforcement and stuff. And like for me, it just always, like, it started to just come from sports and girls. And so like I just stopped caring about school and like was focused on this. But because I didn't get positive reinforcement in those places, you know, so there was like a component of like neediness and attachment issue and all that stuff that you could see how that could translate into what transpired with my relationships throughout my entire life, you know? So yeah, I mean, you know, it's a long process and a long story and stuff. And like, obviously I had a tendency to jump into things sooner than I needed to, and so on and so forth. Interesting statistic though, going back to my first marriage and us being 28, every person that I married was 28 when I married them.
Oh wow.
Isn't that weird?
That is
Don't
weird.
marry me.
Olivia, I had something I wanted to talk to you about later.
I've met you once before, but
You're canceling our wedding already? Then we're not.
Cancel.
well, so was that a pattern in your relationships before your marriage too? Like when you were just dating?
I think, and I was thinking about this today, like in preparation for this, like looking at that from that perspective, like, you know, where you're needing positive reinforcement from somebody because you don't have the self-esteem for yourself. Then yeah, I mean, it was a pattern in my relationships, because I think things would like start to wane when you know, because in a relationship things settle, you know, that right. Like that excitement that, you know, the honeymoon period or whatever is not there, and so eventually, you know, you don't feel like you're getting enough. You're not, you know. Mm-hmm. But that's the whole thing, is that's a normal progression. And I don't think, you know, I ever reached a point where I was like, oh, this is okay, you know.
Like it should always be the high thing.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, you know, kind of like needing that high energy, needing the drama and stuff. I mean, obviously now, like I realize that that's unrealistic. And it doesn't mean that a relationship is bad, you know. Just needs, like, you need to learn to adapt and like focus on the other positive aspects of that relationship, you know. Oddly enough, and Karin can attest to this, I've become picky as hell as I've gotten older.
Karin is here, folks. That's why.
Hi, Karin. She can't.
Yeah, we're
she
just
can't
not,
express
I'm not
herself.
talking to her just because I'm pretending like she's here. Because I need Karin. I do.
You're an emotional support animal.
She is. Yeah, we serve that purpose for each other.
So given that, do you believe in monogamy?
I mean, I believe that's an individual choice for people. Honestly, for myself, if I were to find somebody to be with. I don't ever want to get married again.
Oh,
but
you just answered a question I had.
oh, well, look at me. I'm
What,
reading
the
your mind.
fifth time could be the charm.
Right. I'm sorry. I don't want to get married again unless it's to Olivia. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I imagine being monogamous. Probably.
You daydream about it?
No, but I do. Honestly, I do daydream about like being with somebody and like being like relaxed and comfortable and like laughing and dancing in the kitchen while we cook, or going to concerts together, or like having a continually good sex life. Right. So yeah, those are the things that I daydream about.
Same.
You can have them.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about this already, but do you think your childhood had an effect on the partners that you chose in life?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, it has a reflection. There's a reflection on like the way I lived most of my life, or even, I mean, now to this day, all my friends are female, and I mean, Karin and I have talked about that some too in the past. Like, I mean, I'm a sensitive guy, and like I like to talk about feelings and stuff. So I mean, I was an athlete most of my life, so I was around like normal male culture, and like those people are my friends too. But
It's different.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm just more comfortable around women, and so like you could delve into all sorts of stuff from my childhood about that, and I think about it from time to time too.
Sorry to interject, but that just sparked a question. Were you raised mainly by women, or was there a female presence absent? Because I know sometimes that can...
Right. So my parents are, well, my mom passed away in January 2021, but my parents had been married for 53 years, right?
Wow.
So,
the American way back then.
Right. And like my father and I have a good relationship. My mother was a tough woman, and she's definitely where I got some of my anxiety from. And that's another thing. So in my family, there were my parents, and then I'm the middle child, so that also explains a lot. And then I have a younger sister and an older brother. My brother and father are not social creatures; they don't talk a lot. So what I learned was like communication just comes from women, right? And I loved my mom to death, but she was a tough one, So like my parents were always there for me. They were tough though, and obviously I was a sensitive kid. I mean, hell, I'm a sensitive adult. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that did come from that. And like that, like if I had to ask for something or if I needed help, then I was going to go to my mother because I was scared of my dad. And so like, yeah, that leads me to lean more on females.
Sure.
That
In
makes
and
a
of
lot
itself
of sense.
anyway.
Were any of your marriages super toxic? Care to share a crazy story?
He's having a sip of his beer now.
No,
Take a big sip.
I don't think they were like, I wouldn't go with super toxic.
We would all beg to differ. I don't know. We don't know.
No.
We actually don't know.
I mean, there's obviously a level of toxicity, but not horrible, just like not, I mean, some cases it was just not the right situation. Some situations, like, I mean, you want it to work, and I have questioned my tolerance at times in the past, like, because, I mean, watching my parents being married for that long, I'm like, oh, I mean, you can go through some rough stuff and still make it through, so then I'm like, yeah, I need to be more tolerant, which is true. And I realize that now. So like, if I ever do find that woman to dance in the kitchen with, I'm going to have to try to be more tolerant, However, I've become more aware, or maybe even hyper aware of like things that I consider red flags now, which is not a good thing, you know?
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a process too. It's like where you're like hyper sensitive to something, and then that you have to kind of tame that down and realize that human beings are human beings, and like there isn't a one of us that doesn't have some sort of, you know,
Red
flaw,
flag.
issue,
Yeah.
so on and so
Sure.
forth, you know?
We all have our flags.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, it's a tough thing to navigate. And I just kind of like sit back and like focus on figuring out ways to be happy and comfortable, no matter just with myself or with my kid or, you know, which is challenging in and of itself.
I've always been in therapy. Just a little background about me, really quick. My therapist told me I'm a serial monogamist, and I've always been in a lot of long-term relationships, never single for too long. And I'm starting to embrace, because I recently went through a breakup, I'm starting to embrace just being alone for a while and liking it. And I live alone, and I love living alone. So it's been peaceful.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Pretty much
but-
just the little Kevin Crane, I think.
Hey, don't
So
propose.
wait, there might be a wedding.
I wouldn't want to marry myself, would I? No, I mean, that makes sense. And like, that's hard for a lot of people to do. And like, there's been times in my life where like I couldn't stand being alone. And, you know, now I'm for the most part okay with it. I mean, you know, you get lonely, like you want to have somebody to hang out with, you know, wish
Validate you and
not
tell
even
you
the
sweet
validation
things.
thing, just like to be there to, you know,
Yeah.
watch Netflix or do whatever, you know. I mean, I have a lot of great friends. Like Karin and I have a running date every Thursday night. We've been doing it for the better part of, I mean, close over 4 years now. So like that's some consistency and normalcy. And, you know, I mean, everybody in the world's going to ask if we're dating, and then we got to
Yeah.
explain things, and they're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah.
So how did you, going through this, when did you become a counselor, and like how did you parlay your experience, you know, like how did that propel you, like I want to get into this, you know, give us a little backstory.
So with my third wife, and she probably wouldn't mind me talking more about
Was she your
stuff.
favorite?
I'm not going to answer that question.
One sports.
I mean, she had some mental health issues, like personality disorder stuff and substance abuse stuff, and you know, that was a tough situation or relationship for me to deal with, because honestly, at that period of time, I was actually, you know, moving along fairly well in my own recovery. Actually, that was a choice and a situation I had to deal with to learn from, and it ended up being like a catalyst for me, because when that relationship ended, that's when I like found the passion about like mental health that I have now. So, you know, that was like when, I'm trying to think of what year it was, but you know, like the internet wasn't as accessible and so on and so forth. So I would literally, after we split up, I would like go to Borders or Barnes and Noble and hang out and read the DSM and read books about mental illness, and, you know, in an effort to try to understand what she had been going through, and like an effort to figure out, understand myself better, even though I was going through therapy and actually working with a great therapist at the time. So it was those things. And actually the therapist, who was also she was a psychiatrist, but she also did cognitive behavioral therapy with me. You know, I talked to her about like how into this stuff I'd gotten, and how I felt like a lot of my personality traits suited working with people in that capacity. I'm good at talking to people. People tend to trust me, and it opens up, you know, easy rapport and stuff. And she agreed, and she was one that like encouraged me heavily to like go back to school. That being said, I had a horrible fear of academia. And so like that was, you know, it took a lot of work to even get to the point where I started back to school. And, you know, when I was going to school, like I had to do it all online, and I was still working full time and had a kid. And eventually, I started dating, my fourth wife, and, she was very supportive in the whole thing. She's a works in the field as well. So she was helpful in that and like helping me like be like, you know, you can do this, so on and so forth, because I would definitely be petrified at times, especially if I had to take a math class or something.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know, I don't want to think about that.
Right, but so you know, I did it. I was, and you know, that's a heavy thing to do, like with a kid and the full-time job, and you know, handling school and stuff. But you know, I'm glad that I did it, and then like immediately continued on to work on a master's degree, which technically I'm still working on, like piecing it together because life got in the way and I had to take a step back.
Well, that's awesome though.
But I mean, I've been working in the field for 8 years now. So yeah, I went back to school when I was 38, and then when I was started my master's program, I got an internship at a state psychiatric hospital, and I was there for 3 years, and it's in Williamsburg, so the commute was heavy.
Wow,
And
that's
so
a
then-
long drive.
Yeah, cool town though. I kind of miss Williamsburg.
It is fun.
Yeah,
I took a bike ride through a Civil War reenactment parade, and I was in the middle of it, and I was like, I'm embarrassed.
That's hilarious.
but then I found work closer to home and in a setting that I like. So I work at a psychosocial day program for adults with severe mental illness. So, which I find fascinating. You know, at first when I went into the field, my goal was to like work in private practice doing therapy, but now I prefer working with people on Medicaid in, you know, those settings like where there's. I like working with severe mental illness, you know, so people with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder,
Wow.
yeah, bipolar, so forth. And because it's cool, like the setting that I work with them now is, you know, they're there 5 days a week, you know, during our work day. And so you really get to know them and like interact with them every day. And you also get a chance to like see firsthand like their growth and stuff. So
That's
Has-
neat.
One thing that maybe it's a stigma, but like I'd be kind of scared to be in the same room as someone with schizophrenia. Is it scary, or is it not something to be afraid of?
no, that's an excellent way to segue into stigma though, because no, it's not. I mean, like when I was working at the psychiatric hospital in Williamsburg, you know, there's 300 patients there. In different phases of recovery or brand new if they're in a admissions unit, and there's people that are NGRI, which is not guilty by reason of insanity. There's people that have been transferred from jails because of mental health issues that couldn't be handled in the jail setting. And like, you know, things would, like you'd hear like about staff getting hit or attacked and stuff. You know, but those people are in a more acute state. But then again, like what I learned there, because in my 3 years there, I was never once scared. It kind of just comes down to like if you treat people with respect, you build that rapport and stuff. Like even if they're agitated, they're not going to attack you. And the statistics show that the occurrence of violence within the mental health population is about the same as it is within the general population.
Oh.
So, like, you know, I mean, you hear about the worst stuff happening,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Craig Deeds in Virginia, whose son attacked him because he had bipolar disorder and with psychotic features, and he was having a psychotic break and attacked his father and harmed himself and stuff, which led to a lot of good legislation in Virginia, but that's a very isolated incident, you know, and the problem there is, and this is the same is true for a lot of other people who end up in those situations, is because they don't have treatment available. If the treatment was there earlier, those things wouldn't happen as often, you know? I mean, in that instance with him, like Craig Deed, the state senator, was actually looking for a bed for him, and they could not find one, and that happened. And so now, like, even if they don't have a bed available, they got to make one. They better find one, you know? Which is
find a bed.
right. Yeah, I mean, which is good because, like, I mean, that's a huge thing, and like stigmatized into all this as well. Like the resources aren't there, the treatment's not there, it's not readily available. There aren't enough people working in the mental health field, and a lot of that. The reason is, for one, like people in the mental health field are not respected, do not get paid well, so on and so forth. So people aren't going to like go into it in droves. You kind of have to have a passion for it to do it. But you know, if stigma was reduced, if psychiatric illness or mental illness was treated with the same respect that physical illness is, there would be more availability. There would be more funds going toward it. There would be more treatment. I mean, you know, that horrible incident with Cray Deeds led to progress. The pandemic led to progress, you know, but it sucks that unfortunate situations are the things that have to happen for us to
grow.
Yeah. You know, what we need is like for everyone to have a better understanding of what's going on, to recognize mental illness as being real, because people still often look at it as a character flaw.
Right.
I feel like especially like the older generations don't believe in. I love that about like the Gen Xers, the millennials, the Gen Zers. We believe in mental illness. We're experiencing it, and I feel like a lot of like the baby boomers and up. There are outliers, of course.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I feel like they're the ones that are like, you don't need therapy. Therapy is dumb. It's
Right,
not real.
right. Well, I mean,
I'm your therapist.
there's
Just talk to
outliers
me.
in all of those groups that you mentioned. There's still plenty of millennials or Gen X that'll be like, no, it's not real, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's sad. Like, you know, people will sometimes question what I do and be like, what? I mean, is that stuff even real? Or I'm like, you come to work
No
one day,
idea.
you'll see that it's real, you know? Or, you know, there's still a mentality, the way things used to be, it was like, you know, just get them off the street, get them out of sight, so on and so forth, which is horrible because mental illness is treatable, you know? Like, I mean, we're getting better at it. We're not great, but like the more support we have, the more research we can do, so on and so forth, it's going to improve everything and improve a lot of people's lives, you know?
Yeah, because I know in the 70s they ended up like closing down all these facilities, and a lot of these people ended up being homeless who were in long-term care facilities for psychiatric illnesses. Like, do you see like any changes, especially like within the police force? Is there more training going on at all with like dealing with more psychiatric situations, or are we still just throwing people in jail even though it's more of a psychiatric issue and they're not getting treatment for it, so it's like a never-ending cycle?
So police officers in most places are getting more training. In several places, they're developing a crisis teams to work with police officers. So they'll have, you know, mental health professionals, social workers, whatever, working alongside to help better handle situations with their mental health crisis, instead of just, you know, going about it from the law enforcement perspective, which is scary, you know, obviously, for someone in that situation. So, yeah, I mean, things are being done, and I think that's something that's going to grow more as we move along.
Great.
Yeah, it is great. Because, you know, then, like, if you look at the statistics of people in jail, like, that have, you know, mental health or substance use issues, it's you know, in the 60-70% range. And I think that's an estimate, right?
Sure.
You know, and then look at the homeless population, same thing can be said.
Breaks my heart.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and
I feel like the homeless population is getting worse.
I think that has a lot to do with economic issues. Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. Oh, you want to start on that? The world's too expensive.
I'm like,
so yeah.
when I'm like, you can have one little drop of gas card. I'll just walk to work or hitchhike.
Right.
You
today.
can have a frozen bag of peas for dinner.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, like, with that being said, without going down that pathway of talking about the current state of the economy or this country or whatever, you know, there are systemic issues that create environmental issues that do influence mental health, you know, poverty actually being a big one. But, you know, like all kinds of things, when you look at it, can have a traumatic effect on people and systemic issues such as racism or sexism or misogyny, all that stuff, are causing issues that we're actually seeing now, which is a good step, and responding to in some cases. But obviously, all that needs to grow, right?
Yep.
There always seems to be like popular buzzwords about mental health that get thrown around, and one that is thrown around a lot recently that I hear is narcissist.
Right.
Are we just suddenly becoming aware of these people? Is this a term that we're using too broadly on people? And to start it off, why don't you give us a little definition of what narcissist is?
The way that I view narcissism, like narcissistic personality disorder, is a disorder where one lacks empathy and has severe self-esteem issues and uses defense mechanisms to produce their self-esteem. Are we using that term too loosely? Yes, probably.
Oh, yeah.
However, has there been an increase in some of those traits in our society? I think that's also possibly true, which could also go back to systemic issues or family issues. And y'all won't allow me to be comfortable, will you?
Like social media. And like
I need a lapel microphone, please. So yeah, I mean, there's research surrounding all of those things. Like, in my personal observation, we'll be quick to label people that, and not saying that there aren't some narcissistic traits there. I'm looking at you.
What?
That shaking was the demon of the dungeon,
but yeah, they are there, and I think that has to do with possibly a lot of different factors. I mean, I have my own opinions on that I won't get into because I don't know if there's enough research to support it.
Without naming names.
Right, but I mean,
we do know a lot of them. I definitely know a few.
Right, and it does come down to the what happened to them stuff, and like there's reasons that people develop that way, and in some ways throughout our lives we pretty much all have some narcissistic traits, but to actually reach that point where it's dictating your behavior and stuff is a whole different animal.
And I feel like the empath and the narcissist are like magnets, and it's so sad. I mean, it's futile, like they're gonna
right. Yeah. The word, like the term empath, I don't know how much I buy into that. Like, I know that there are people that have higher levels of empathy, and obviously empathy is a good thing to have. It's a necessary thing to have.
Maybe there's a different name for that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times
like
it's
sensitivity
almost, or like people with attachment, people with like attachment issues,
right,
like anxious attachment disorders.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that, or passive attachment disorders as well. I mean, I think possibly just people that are easier to manipulate, So, I mean, like that's something that, we all like sit around examining all of our relationships.
We're all looking at each other. What are you?
I took that quiz on Facebook. No.
Yeah, those are always very valid, except for you can't get to the end of them because an ad will kick you off or
I know,
something.
right?
You'll be like, I don't know if I'm a narcissist or not because
I gotta pay for it.
Right. Now I gotta buy Xfinity. What I don't.
Oh my gosh. Well, is it still true? I mean, I remember hearing, especially as the pandemic was slowing down, and I know some friends who were trying to get counseling during that time because obviously I'm sure there was a rise in depression, with the isolation, anxiety. I'm sure I had it. I mean, Matt will attest to that. I would be like, I'm crying and I don't know why.
I'm sorry, Matt.
When I watched the horses,
or I'm like, I'm gonna murder you and I don't know why.
Oh, great.
Whatever,
Sure.
But there were
your wife was homicidal.
Yes, there was vast mood swings during the lockdown, but there was crazy wait lists to actually get in to see a mental health professional. Has that kind of like caught back up, or is it still going on?
Caught back up? No.
Yeah.
Is there a push to get more people? Yes. I mean, that has gotten better, obviously. Obviously, with the pandemic, there's been a big shift to telehealth, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. I mean, it can do the job. I guess it's better than nothing, but kind of like a one-on-one therapy, it seems to be like could be better in person. But there is more access now. There's a recognition of a growing need for more mental health professionals, more treatment options, so on and so forth. Still, however, there's limitations to what people can get, and that, kind of goes into our whole like healthcare system and,
oh Lord.
Right. The amount of money people have and the amount of money they don't have and so on and so forth.
Another episode.
Yes, exactly. If y'all want to do that episode, I'm definitely I will get all socialist up in here.
And I'll second that. Well, bringing it back to marriage. So, what would you just say for our listeners? Like, what are some good tips to, when you get into that honeymoon phase is gone, like what kind of key pieces of advice would you give to like keep just the relationship going, and like you're not going to have that like, oh, I want to jump your bones every 5 seconds. I mean, maybe you will. That'd be
I mean, if they're that scorching hot, right?
Yeah. I mean, that happens to Matt all the time. But
Matt's a lucky man.
But what would you say are like some good tools or strategies to have?
I mean, obviously, personally, I've done a lot of research on this subject.
Yes, I know you're an expert.
That's why we called you.
Yeah, it's weird because people still do come to me for relationship advice, and I'm really, you're barking up the wrong tree, brother. Come talk to me when you're getting a divorce. I can help you. No. One of the biggest thing that I've learned, and like, I firmly believe this now from my trials and tribulations and, the work that I do, and like, people that I work with will ask me these same things about relationships. And like what it comes down to, the two biggest things is like to maintain an open line of honest communication and to figure out a way to maintain a mutual respect, because I think a lot of times in relationships, they'll end up being like power balances, especially if you're with a narcissist.
Oh my God.
And like, we don't say what we feel or we don't say what we want. And, it then sometimes even when we do, it's not received well. So there needs to be like the capacity for communicating openly and active listening and all that stuff to be able to maintain those things.
Right.
But the respect is a huge thing, because like if you reach a point where your partner's like looking down on you or vice versa, it's not, that's not a good thing. Like it's not, because it's in my head, in my idealistic head, a relationship is like not two people that like intertwine and grow together. It is two people that like support each other and grow
independently.
Yeah, right. And I think, a lot of times we have codependency and we have this reliance and stuff. And what we need instead is like this realization that, you recognize yourself, and this relationship with this other person enhances that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That may be a freaking pipe dream, but
I hope it's real.
in my head, like that's what, and the things that are required are that communication and the respect, because really, like, how are you going to like somebody forever if you can't talk to them and you don't respect them?
True.
Totally agree with you. Oh gosh.
Or if they cancel all the time, you can't.
Yeah, you can't
God, yeah,
cancel.
No cancel.
No.
Even if you're sick.
Are you seeing different trends of people who are seeking help? I mean, like, does it seem like a generational thing, like we were talking about earlier, they're more willing to, or like it's, you know, trans youth who's coming to see you more, or, you know,
I think,
because I know there's like, even we were touching on stigma as well, like a socioeconomic, almost kind of like stigma, gender stigma, race stigma, etc., like that play big roles, especially like, you know, men or African American men like going to get help.
I think there are more people now that are open to get help, and that's a good thing. When you look at the LGBTQ community, I think since there's more acceptance now, there's probably actually been a decrease in the need. I mean,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
right. I mean, I don't know specifically from my experience, but it, like, you know, obviously that is a group that still faces a lot of societal pressures and stigma, and like it's not fully accepted, but the acceptance is growing, and that's going to take some of that pressure away. And that's true with like any marginalized population, you know? So like even the stigma for people who have mental illness, regardless of who they are or what they recognize themselves as or what their race is or what their religion is or whatever, if it's more accepted, if stigma is reduced, more people will get help. Right. So that being said, with more things being accepted, then more people will get help, or less people will need it in the process too, because there's not as much judgment
to deal with. Yeah.
However, like, you know, a post-pandemic, I know the statistic pre-pandemic was 1 in 5 people in the United States would be treated for some mental illness within their life, and now it's 1 in 4. So,
wow.
Yeah. But then again, that's also just
double-edged. Like, is it good? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
People that are treated, given a diagnosis, it's not actually everybody that has, you know. So the number's more than likely higher than that.
I mean, people will probably take offense to this, but I'm like, everyone has their own mental health issues. I'm sorry.
I agree with that. Yeah.
so.
I mean, is there like, you know,
We're
some
human.
enlightened individual who doesn't feel like stress, anxiety, depression at some point?
Living in this world? How the hell
Right.
that gonna
I
happen?
want
Yeah.
what you want.
They better be levitating or something.
I know, right? It's Dua Lipa. She's
I'm
the only one.
levitating.
No.
All right. So also, we're gonna start to wrap up this part of the interview. We want to know how we can support the mental health community in Richmond,
Or
like
resources
any-
for people
if you
looking
have
for-
any.
I mean, one great resource always is NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness.
NAMI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they do a lot of. I mean, there's a Central Virginia chapter of that. They're doing the NAMI walk soon. They have a NAMI picnic. That's the largest advocacy group in the United States. And then there's tons of other smaller groups and stuff, and new ones are popping up. The biggest thing, though, and you know, I talk to my clients about this, and like I have no shame in talking about my own experiences with mental illness, and I think that is a good thing too, because you know, the more people understand things, you know, the more they're gonna accept it.
Not be scared to talk
Voice
about
their
it.
own.
Right. Or you know, like, I mean, I remember when I first started having panic attacks and stuff, like I was an odd creature, because like once that happened, I was like very proactive about getting help and like feeling better. And then I also didn't hide what I was going through, you know. So if I had to miss work or something, I wasn't like, well, you know, sprained my ankle, or you know, I had the hives, so I didn't come in, and I'd be like, you know, it's agoraphobic, and like I couldn't leave my house, and people would be like, oh my God. And you know, a lot of times you expect like some sort of judgment, and they're going to be like,
Just learned what agoraphobic was, by the way.
you're expecting people, because of stigma, to be like, you're, you know, weak of mind, or like, why are you worrying so much, or something like that. But a lot of times people would like hear me out and listen, and they would be like, I felt like that before, or they talk about a relative that, and they'll be like, how do I address that with them, and so on and so forth. So although, sure, sometimes some asshole will say some offhanded, offensive stuff, a lot of times the response that you get is like people actually wanting to understand more, and so like to me, and I tell people I work with this, I tell everyone this that I know that has mental health issues. All
of us at this table.
Talk about it, because like the more you do, I mean, people are going to listen and they're going to understand better,
So if somebody is listening to this in Richmond, which everyone is who listens pretty much, and if they want some help, where can they go?
NAMI.
But where else?
Actually, NAMI
Anywhere
has a
else?
resource that we can direct them. I mean, a good place to start is always your local community service board. So, if you're in Richmond City, it would be Richmond Behavioral Health Authority, Henrico County Mental Health, Chesterfield County Mental Health, Hanover. Every county has something, and that's a good place to start, because like even if you go there and you don't qualify for services because you make too much money or you have private insurance, they're going to be able to help you, like redirect you to where you need to go. And now there's, a lot of online resources and stuff.
BetterHelp.
Yeah, BetterHelp, all those online therapy things. We can, they can be good. And there's even online services where you can get medication if needed and stuff.
Yeah, it says I can get shrooms on there. Is that true?
Right, probably, but not in Virginia yet.
Damn it. Like, wait, these are portobellos? Damn it.
I think shiitake mushrooms by the pound cost more than shrooms do.
And please, if you are feeling down, if you're having any issues, please reach out to someone, and especially if you're having like suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, there's always someone who can listen to you, and things do get better.
Yeah, and there are suicide hotlines, and there are also mental health warm lines where you can call just to talk to somebody if you're not in crisis. Just you need, to have someone hear you out.
You can even call the number on the back of your insurance card. I did that once.
Yeah.
And I was like, commit me, please. And they were like, I think
you're jumping the gun, lady.
Your medication just needs to be titrated. I'm like, are you sure? Or I'm like crawling out in the walls. Like,
and they were like, do you want to talk to my husband?
That was years before I met Matt. No.
All right, guys. We should move on to the next segment of the podcast.
We're moving to a new segment.
Big Daddy News. Oh, he needs his microphone. Big Daddy.
Hey guys,
Are you there?
this is your Dungeon Master, and so I wanted to bring up a trendy topic for today, and that has to do with the Barbie movie. So I don't know if you've heard of that recently. It's been all over the news. It's a little indie film, I think. But so anyway, this is kind of a fun fact. So during 2022, they used so much paint from a company called Roscoe Paint that they completely depleted. That's what I was trying to say.
Holy
the global supply of pink paint. And so that is your fun factoid of today.
It's funny. My mom and dad were divorced, and both of my rooms were pink. Both of them.
That's wild. I think actually they get simpatico. I know my mic I'm talking into is pink right now.
My Yeti is pink.
But my parents would get me the same cards and like the same bike. It was weird. And they were divorced. And they didn't talk to one another. They just would do that. Weird. Anyway, thank you for that little factoid about Barbs.
And we need you to put your stuff back on, Kevin, because we got more for you.
That's right. By the way,
Speaking of the Barbie movie.
That's right. We got to go see it for a second time last night, and I appreciated it much more than the first, since I had had about 50 espresso martinis.
Liz was not alive during the Barbie movie the first time.
Yeah, I don't remember anything.
But Coastal Spritz had a giveaway, and somehow, even though they are our sponsor, We ended up winning their giveaway, and they're like, "You won the giveaway." But we went thanks to them, and we're gonna crack open a can. I cannot talk.
Yeah.
Of some coastals. Would you like one, Kevin?
Oh, I'd love one.
All right, there you are. Matt, would you like one?
Yes, I would.
Ooh, the pineapple spritz.
All right, and there. Oh, let's trade.
God, you're so picky.
I know I am. I'm an only child, Kevin. You wouldn't understand.
No.
All right, guys. We're taking a picture. Thank you, Matt.
That's rather
Okay,
tasty,
let's talk.
actually.
Yeah,
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Tell us what do
Yeah,
you
talk
guys
into the mic and tell
detect
us what you
hints
like.
of?
I mean, I just took a sip, before we took the picture, and it's a nice balance, the pineapple and a little bit of boozy flavor, and
That's
yeah,
right.
it's maybe almost too crushable.
I agree. They are dangerous. You're like, wait, I just had a whole 6-pack. Anyway, you can find Coastal Spritz at Benchtop Brewing and at Corks and Kegs. So go
And
get
more
you some,
places.
baby. More to come.
They're coming soon everywhere around Richmond. They're about to take over.
That's
But
right.
if you want to come on the podcast and try one, hit us up.
That's right.
It's a good reason to come on the podcast.
Yes.
I didn't even know y'all were going to give me booze, and I came anyway.
That's
One of our
right.
treats.
We will give you free alcohol.
Also, you guys, it wouldn't be a podcast episode without us talking about Maya's belly dancing. We take Maya's belly dancing at the dance space on Broad, but she also offers it at Tangueros in Midlothian.
And we're loving it.
And we
And
love it.
I mean, we practically have 6-packs right now because of our belly dancing. You know,
And we can shake our asses better than ever before.
hails to the year.
Prove it.
That'll be out of the podcast.
That'll be post-production. All right, now let's move on to some funny questions.
Okay.
Kevin, if you could fashion your last meal, what would it be and why?
I'm going to be boring about this because, it would just be beer and pizza. I'm that guy,
What pizza from
Right.
where? A chain or specific pizzeria?
Actually, if I'm in Richmond, then it would be from Leonardo's Pizzeria in
Ooh, yeah.
Innsbruck. My favorite, though, is actually Daredevil's Pizza in Kildare Hills, North Carolina. Yeah. Very good.
Yum. I would have to say probably, well, I'd have to get this restaurant going back into business, but it's one in Charleston, South Carolina, Mama Brown's Barbecue. I would want their vinegary as hell barbecue with all of their good sides.
I just made barbecue this weekend. I should have brought some.
Oh my God, you idiot. I'm canceling this now.
She can attest for the quality of my barbecue. I do make a North Carolina
Good.
style.
Oh my God. Next time.
Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. For me, as long as it's quality, I would want to hire someone who knows the best of the best. But I want a filet mignon, medium rare with crab legs. Maybe like queen crab legs, because king sometimes are like not as yummy as the queen for some reason. Queen crab legs, maybe a sushi roll. I love seafood. Maybe like a Cosmo, and a nice salad with Italian dressing, some bread, some fresh butter. Ooh, that
Well,
sounds
you're
marvelous.
definitely having the largest last meal.
I know. I'm like, damn, you thought about this.
I'm
for a
going out
long
with
time.
indigestion.
I know what I like. Okay. Oh, and then for dessert,
Oh my God.
tiramisu.
I'd have to have ice cream of some sort with some like Friendly's peanut butter sauce.
Oh yeah,
Lots
that
of
stuff is
Oh my
amazing.
God.
Yeah,
You
and it's
can't
also
find
so nostalgic. No, I remember when I was a kid, I would go to the Friendlies on Broad Street,
Yeah.
right there where Peaches used to be,
Yes.
and get the peanut butter sundae thing that was it was enormous. It was like 5 scoops of ice cream. This is 4,000 calories I was eating when I was 10 years old. But yeah, that peanut butter sauce was ridiculous.
I would get extra sides of it and like take it home because I used to live near the one on Patterson.
Right.
I had an apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they thought I was like a crackhead.
All right, guys. Should we do a couple more funny questions, and then we can go into another new segment, season 2 segment?
Yes.
Okay. One funny question I have for you, who, without naming names, who is the weirdest person you know and why?
Who is the weirdest person I know and why? That's a tough one.
Do you want me to write down the name? Karin's like, I know. I'll tell you.
I already know mine.
I know mine too. Weird Al, because he's weird.
Oh.
No.
Does it get weirder than that?
That's an obvious.
I used to know this guy. He was a drummer, and he had a tendency to, like, out in public, just, whip his.
I was about to just ask.
Right, whip his junk out.
His wiener out.
Right. So,
Weenie?
yes, right. Which that still seems pretty odd to me.
That is
I'm
odd.
proud of mine and I like it, but I'm not going to show it
You're
off
not
to
going to
everybody.
whip it out
right.
just any old person.
Right.
Like, no one else wants to, like, see your balls all the time, bro.
Maybe that special somebody who's out there. You never know.
Maybe. How about you, Olivia?
The weirdest person I know was this. I'm going to name a name. Russell was his name. And I did ski club in high school, and there was this kid from a different school that we would always see. He wore a leather suit when he skied.
What?
And then we sat down with him one time, and he had a pinky. He had regular nails. He was a kid. He was like a senior in high school. He had regular nails, except for his pinky that was super long. And now that I'm older, I knew exactly
do
what
bumps.
that pinky
Right.
was for. He was weird, and we would always take pictures with him. And I'll post a picture on our thing of
my
him because
gosh.
it's funny. Russell, that's all I have to
Yeah.
say. Liz,
I said Weird Al. I mean, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Say.
I mean, you're sitting
It's
here.
been
at
a
this
long
table with
week.
us. You
Yeah,
got
I
good
mean, oh my
choices.
god.
all right, moving into another segment of the podcast that you guys voted on that we should do, which is the restaurant of the week. And we're going to say what restaurant you should visit and what to order. And for me, one of my favorite sushi places that's kind of underrated and low profile is Tokyo Sushi on Staples Mill. They are local. They've won a bunch of awards. They're reasonably priced. And my favorite roll is the Ikebana roll, which is a spicy tuna roll topped with sriracha is spicy, with sriracha and caviar. And it's delicious. And they don't have that big of a booze menu, but they have booze. And I just get like a glass of white wine and I have it with that. It's so good. Oh, and shout out to Amy, because Amy's brother is from my hometown in upstate New York, which is so random.
But not Amy?
They're from Japan.
Oh.
But he lives in my hometown, Elmira, and he is a doctor there. So shout out to Amy and her brother.
My restaurant of the week is my favorite local watering hole, Liberty Public House.
Good one.
Oh my God. I know I've talked about them on here before, but my God, I could eat there every day. I recommend you order the South of Philly with chicken. Order it hot and get the shoestring fries with a side of ranch. You won't be disappointed.
Or their homemade mustard
Yes,
sauce.
they do have a homemade mustard
Oh,
sauce
that
that is
sounds
also
delightful.
good. Yes. And then I always they serve brunch all day, so I get a brunch drink. It's called the Morning Mule. It's a mule with tequila and orange juice, and it's really good. They also have like a spin on an espresso martini right now, so
I
gotta
heard
get
you had
yourself
50
one
of
them.
those once before you went
Yeah.
to see a movie.
True.
How'd you know?
I was
That my
actually at the
birthday.
movie. It was the Cinebistro.
Well, you should mention the 3 bean rule.
Oh yeah, and you got to put 3 beans on top of the martini, of course.
3 beans. Okay, and what is the one thing I get there? The AC Smash.
Yes.
That's also really good at
That's
Liberty
country
Public
fried
House.
chicken breast with pimento cheese, red-eyed bacon jam, garlic, pickles, and lettuce on a brioche bun.
We always get the same exact thing whenever we go there. She gets the South of Philly. I get the AC Smash.
But I'm always slightly buzzed whenever we go there, and I'm like, it's straight out of Philly, and they're like, it's the South of Philly. Like, you're here every day. You don't know it yet? No, I didn't.
Okay, let's do some shout outs.
Yes. Well, obviously, to Liberty.
Obviously to Tokyo Sushi off the Staples Mill.
Also, a shout out to the ranch. I mean, that was pretty fun.
That was
I haven't
so
been to
much
the Southside location, but hey,
I liked the Mechanicsville location.
we're in the midst
better.
of a country renaissance. It happens every 10 to 15 years. You got to pull out your boots and boogie.
And I like that it's segmented off. Like there's one area for the bull riding and like a DJ, and there's another for the band. And if you want a different vibe, you can go in between venues.
And wasn't there like pool tables? Or am I
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There was another room. Yeah.
There was even a third room.
The bathrooms were nice and tidy.
Also, Double Down, the band. Check them out. They're really good.
Yeah.
We enjoyed them a lot.
And shout out to Coastal Spritz for sponsoring us. Obviously, Maya's Belly Dancing.
Kevin, any shout outs?
I'm just want to shout out to you guys. Thank you for having me. Y'all are great.
Papa
so
Bear.
sweet.
Oh, his name is Papa Bear. Papa Bear.
All right. Well, we will see you guys in a few weeks. This will be released while we're on vacay. Olivia will be in
I'll
New
do it.
York.
But I'll release it for you to Liz while you go.
Yes, I'll be down in Hilton Head with the fam.
All right, season 2, you guys. This is a new adventure, but we're going to navigate the waters.
But we're going to be putting up some polls and continuing to hear your suggestions about things you'd like to hear more about and things you're like, I don't give a shit about. So,
We love
all
you
right.
guys.
Love ya.
Bye, Papa Bear.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Papa. Love you.